Hello everyone. So this is the sixth part of photosynthesis, and in this lesson we'll be discussing mainly about the dark reaction, that is the Kelvin cycle, and also we'll be focusing upon the photorespiration, and finally we'll be solving a previous year CSIR net question. So first of all, let us discuss about the Kelvin cycle. So the Kelvin cycle was discovered by the scientist Melvin Kelvin in 1957, and this cycle is famously known as the C3 cycle because it is the phosphoglycerate, which is the first stable compound that is formed in this cycle, which is a 3-carbon compound. This Kelvin cycle or the dark reaction, it is a light independent reaction, but it requires the product of the light reaction, which we have talked about in the previous part, and the products were ATP and NADPH2. And in addition to these two, cycle also requires carbon dioxide. And the location of the Kelvin cycle is the stroma, and the stroma was the matrix part of the chloroplast, about which we have already discussed. So let's talk about the enzyme, that is the Rubisco, which stands for ribulose 1,5-bisphosphate carboxylase oxygenase. This enzyme plays a very important role in the initial step of the Kelvin cycle. This enzyme can work as both oxygenase and carboxygenase. That means this enzyme can work in the presence of both oxygen and carbon dioxide. And also a point to remember is that the enzyme has equal affinity for both of the molecules. And the activity of the enzyme depends upon the concentration. That is, depending upon the concentration of oxygen or carbon dioxide, the enzyme will work as either oxygenase or carboxygenase respectively. And the last point to remember is that the enzyme has same site for both of the molecules. So what is an active site? Consider this is an enzyme. So the enzyme has a pocket-like structure, and this structure is the area where the substrate comes and binds. This site is known as active site. So let's talk about the conditions in which the Kelvin cycle operates. The first condition is the moderate temperature. Then we have moderate light and also high concentration of carbon dioxide. This high concentration of carbon dioxide results in Rubisco to work as a carboxygenase. I have star marked here CSIR net here because this question have been asked previously. Let's talk about the Kelvin cycle now. So the most important point to remember here is that there are 3 main steps in the Kelvin cycle, and those steps are carboxylation, then we have reduction, and finally there is regeneration. So let us look into the cycle now. First of all, RUBP, that is Rubisco 1,5-bisphosphate, and carbon dioxide combines together in the presence of the enzyme Rubisco, gets converted into PGA, which is a 3-carbon compound and also the first stable compound of the Kelvin cycle. Now this PGA gets converted into 1,3-PGA, that is 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate, by the usage of 6 ATP. And now 1,3-PGA gets reduced into PGAL, that is phosphoglyceraldehyde. From these 6 molecules of PGAL, 1 PGAL gets eliminated and we are left only with 5 PGAL. These 5 PGAL gets regenerated back to RUBP by the help of 3 ATPs. The most important elimination occurs is of 1 PGAL, that is helping the plant to make sugar. But depending upon the requirement of the plant, this PGAL can either enter into the sugar formation or it can enter the glycolysis, which is the process in the respiration topic, or it can help in the starch formation. So now let us look at the usage of ATP and NADPH2 in the cycle. So first of all, the point to remember is that we are talking about 3 cycles because we have taken 3 carbon dioxide initially. So in the process of 3 cycles, we are using 9 ATP, 6 NADPH2 and 8 phosphate. But we know that glucose has 6 carbons. So 6 cycles would be required for one glucose molecule to be formed. So finally, for one glucose, we would need 18 ATPs, 12 NADPH2 and 16 phosphates. This topic have been previously asked many times in the CSIR net, hence this makes this topic very important. So now let us look at the photorespiration now. So the photorespiration is also known as the C2 cycle. Why we are calling it C2? Because it is the phosphoglycolate, which is the first stable product. And the next point to remember is that photorespiration is a harmful process for the plant. Why it is harmful? Because in photorespiration there occurs unfixing of the fixed carbon dioxide. As in the case of Kelvin cycle, it was this carbon dioxide which was getting fixed into the PgAl. But in case of photorespiration, there occurs unfixing of carbon dioxide, which is a harmful step for the plant. And also, photorespiration occurs when the C3 plant encounters stress conditions. And what are those stress conditions? We'll discuss it in the next slide. The example for the plants in which photorespiration is seen are wheat, beans and the plants in the temperate areas. So these are the conditions for the photorespiration to occur. The first condition is high temperature, then we have high concentration of oxygen, and also we have less carbon dioxide concentration, which is less than 50 ppm, that is parts per million. The point to remember here is that there is high concentration of oxygen, which leads to Rubisco to work as an oxygenase. These conditions are also very important from the CSIR net point of view, as one question has been already asked previously in the paper. So this is the complete process of the photorespiration. So first point to remember is that there are 3 organelles involved in this process, and those 3 organelles are, the first one is the chloroplast, then we have peroxisome, and finally we have mitochondria. The code to remember this sequence is CPM. C is for chloroplast, then we have peroxisome and mitochondria. And the next point to remember is the compound which gets transported to the next organelle. So let's discuss the complete process now. So it is the RUBP, that is Rubisco 1,5-bisphosphate, in the presence of high oxygen, and Rubisco working as oxygenase gets converted into phosphoglycolate, which is the first stable compound of the photorespiration. And this phosphoglycolate, by the removal of a phosphate, gets converted into glycolate, and this glycolate is transported from the chloroplast to the peroxisome. This glycolate, after reaching the peroxisome, gets converted into glycine via subsequent steps, and this glycine, after reaching the mitochondria, gets converted into serine by the removal of carbon dioxide and NH3, and also by the conversion of NAD plus into NADH. So this is the unfixed carbon dioxide in this process, which makes it a harmful process for the plants. And this serine gets transported from the mitochondria to the peroxisome, which by subsequent steps gets converted into glycerate, and this glycerate is then transported back to the chloroplast. and this glycerate on reaching the chloroplast gets converted into PGA by the usage of 1 ATP, and this PGA is finally entering the ultimate C3 cycle. So these additional steps are causing a stress to the plant in terms of ATP expenditure and also in terms of the unfixing of the carbon dioxide. So this makes this process very harmful. So let's discuss a previous year question related to the topic, and the question is asking about the metabolite which gets transported from the chloroplast to the peroxisome. So as we have already discussed that from the chloroplast to the peroxisome, it is the glycolate which gets transported. So the correct answer for this question would be D option, that is glycolate. So with this, we are done with the complete process of the dark reaction and also about the photorespiration. And in the next video, we'll be discussing the last few topics left in the photosynthesis. So if you like this video, please do like, share it with your friends and do subscribe to my channel. And I'll be coming up soon with the last part. So till then, keep learning.